go.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. How the devil are we doing this fine day? That music will fade in just a moment, I promise you. There it goes. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. We made it all the way to Friday with hardly any casualties. Well done, people. Feel free to take a day off on Sunday. You have my personal permission. Not sure if that carries any weight with your employer, but you have my permission. Now, if you were here yesterday, you will recall that our main man, Jim Turner, was talking about mismanagement within the construction sector. Well, last night, I settled down to watch the football, and Jim's words were soon ringing in my ears. Now, I realise that some of you are not into football, so I shall keep the football part of this as short as I possibly can. But there is a point, so please try to bear with me. We are regularly told that the English Premier League is the best and most competitive league in the world. Several members of the team that won the Premier League title just a few weeks ago are in the England team. Real Madrid is probably the best club side in world football, and their star player is also in the England team. The top striker in the German league is the England captain and supposedly our primary source of goals. Going into the tournament, we were told that on paper, England had the best team in the tournament. However, as someone once said, football is played on grass, not on paper. And last night's dull, lackluster performance against Denmark proved that point. But it also proved a point about management, or rather mismanagement. For his club, Bayern Munich, Harry Kane has got just one job: to score goals. And he does it very well. For England, however, he's apparently been told that he must play in midfield and defence, and quite possibly in goal as well. For his club, Real Madrid, Jude Bellingham is given freedom to roam and to express himself. It is that which has made him a contender for the World Player of the Year. For England, however, he's been converted into a defender. When he moved from West Ham to Arsenal, Declan Rice was one of the most expensive players in English football history. Arsenal bought him for his dynamic style of play, for his burst into the opposing team's half. In an England shirt, he has been stripped of all dynamism and creativity. Now, the players must take at least some responsibility for last night's terrible performance. But the real cause was unquestionably mismanagement. Gareth Southgate took players that have earned world renown in specific roles and positions for their respective clubs and said, yeah, never mind all that. I want you to do something completely different. Now, bringing that back to demolition construction, this is like employing a dozer operator, an ADT operator, and an excavator operator. Then throwing the keys of the ADT to the dozer driver, the excavator keys to the ADT operator, and the dozer keys to the excavator operator. This is then made worse by only having a plan A, coupled with a refusal to even consider a plan B. And then, as a cherry on top, having the temerity to look at the chaos caused by the excavator, ADT, and dozer operators in the wrong machines and the wrong place at the wrong time and say that everything is fine and dandy. The legendary Liverpool manager, let me try that again. The legendary Liverpool football manager, Bill Shankly, famously once said, football is not a matter of life and death. It's far more important than that. It's a great line, very, very memorable. But demolition construction really is a matter of life and death. Mismanagement has the potential to cause accidents and to cost lives. Construction, like football, is a team game made up of lots of individuals working together for a common aim. When it works, goals are accomplished. When it doesn't, it can be disastrous. People can literally die. My Friday rant is over and done with. Right, I'm going to go over to the chat. Let's have a look who we got here. At 5:17 this morning, Peter McKenna was apparently online. I have no notion of why, but he was here at 5:17 this morning. Good morning, Peter. Thank you very much indeed for being here, and I know you are here. There's Dan Cullen. Let's get this party started. I'm not entirely sure what you're expecting from today's show, but hey, we'll do our best. Andy Hare says, a very merry Friday to all the way from Leeds and Northern Trackland. Gary Muirhead has just said, good morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. Happy Friday indeed. Steve Williamson is here in as well. Who else do we have here? Mark Whiting is here. Yes, P45 for Gareth Southgate. Never been a huge fan, and the idea of actually having a defense, a former defender as a manager troubles me slightly. But he was actually on the TV last night saying something along the lines of, it used to bother me when I was criticised by the media and by the public and by the fans. It doesn't bother me anymore. I just don't take a notice. Maybe you should. Maybe you should. Dan Cullen says, bloody football. Steve Williamson says, football is like another language to me. I was only using it as a vehicle to vent my spleen about the mismanagement in construction. Peter McKenna says, they earn too much, and I know I'm not a footy fan. They don't play like they used to. They used to enjoy playing and had full-time jobs to boot. It's just a money-making scheme nowadays. Ring any bells? Precisely my point. Precisely my point. Yeah. Imagine being a plant operator on 100 grand a week. See, I take your point. I don't know where you're going with that, but I actually think there are probably a couple of people in this audience that if they were still paid, if they were paying 100 grand a week, they'd still turn up, still enjoy what they're doing. Dan Carl says, amazing day, sun shining. It most certainly is here. Construction workers should be paid more than footballers. We are important. We're more important than players. World is all foot. Construction workers, nurses, doctors, all of those people. We build homes, they do what? I think the difference is you build homes that we need to live in. They build enormous brands that make an absolute fortune for people. And they do it in front of millions. I think there's your problem. Peter McKenna says, I totally agree. Yes, indeed. Now, today's going to be a bit of not a weird show. It's going to be the usual fare. But there's a couple of bits that I'm going to send you all the way into the weekend feeling all upbeat and better about the world. So, should we crack on? I think we probably should. So, without further ado, I'm going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road just as soon as I can get to the right part of my screen. It is Friday, the 21st of June. I was just checking to make sure that I had the right date today. Friday, the 21st of June. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, building tomorrow with Volvo construction equipment. We've got 3 French towers being toppled, explosive style. Are we witnessing a shift in machine maintenance? Evidence from Manitou and Caterpillar suggests that we are. Plus, speaking of Caterpillar, we're going to end with an inspirational story from Caterpillar themselves, but we also have today's mystery machine to decipher. And I reckon this is one of those. There are those that I come in thinking they're never going to get this. There are those that think that there are those that I come in thinking they'll probably get this in not too. This one, I reckon, could go either way. I'll be back in just a sec. Going to say good morning to Ken Hatcher, who's just joined us. That's Ken there. Let's have a look. My other half, I just said it's the longest day, 21st of June. Is that right? That's not an excuse for me to go on until lunchtime, I promise. I have to use a concrete skip today because the Rams say no, because there isn't an option to say use a tilt rotator. Madness. Would do it in 3/4 of the time. Indeed. What do you think of my suggestions, Mark? You've made suggestions? Where will I find these suggestions of yours, of which you speak? Gary Muirhead has just said, Hillhead is really taking shape. I was speaking to Joe Westman last night, and he was telling me how he's really looking forward to seeing everybody at stand A35 in the showground. Pop along, guys, and say hi. Funnily enough, I actually said something along the similar lines. Joe or one of his colleagues actually posted a thing on LinkedIn last night to say that the stand was all ready to rock and roll, and they've got a brand new product on display, which you may not have seen before. So I'll go. I'm certainly going to try and get past to see the fine folks at Steelrist, along with everybody else. Lots and lots of people to see and catch up with. Apparently, the 22nd is going to be the longest day. Ken Hatcher is going up to Hillhead on Thursday. We are but ships in the night, I'm afraid, Ken. I'll be on my way home. Well, I will be back home by Thursday. Jim Turner has just joined up. Jim, you missed. This morning's Ranked was dedicated to you. You'll have to go back and have a look, but I promise you it was. Now, Peter McKenna says, have you looked at your WhatsApp? I will have a look in just a moment. When there's a video playing, I'll have a proper look, and I apologise for not having done so. Shortest days, Saturday and Sunday. Ain't that the truth? And good morning to Mick Norton. Now, Mystery Machine. I've promised it to you. Here we go. This is what you have to work with. Could be pretty much anything, that, I reckon. But somebody out there may just spot that. If you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear from you. As usual, no prize. No prizes for guessing, but keep the guesses coming in. And as I said before I actually started, to show it to you, I reckon this is one that could go either way. I reckon somebody's either going to go, yes, or nope, not a clue. I'll tell you now that Steve Williamson has been first with a guess, saying the Avant, and Jim Turner, funnily enough, is saying the Avant mini loader. Both good answers. Neither are right. I can tell you now, it is not an Avant of any kind. Not an Avant of any kind, but yeah, you're kind of in the ballpark, in a manner of speaking. Gary Muirhead has gone for the JCB Tele Truck. It's not one of those either. So while you're trying to figure that out, let me remind you of today's question of the day, which looks like this. Yeah, our question of today comes once again from that bottomless pit of intrigue and curiosity, Mr. Gary Muirhead. His question, quite simply, is this: do you have any toxic traits? Or, more specifically, do you have any toxic traits that you're not proud of? I realise it's possible to have toxic traits and be very proud of them, but I'm looking for toxic traits, or Gary is, toxic traits that you're not proud of. Now, without question, my most toxic trait is my unshakable belief that I'm always right. Even when the evidence clearly suggests otherwise, I will stick to my guns regardless, swear that I'm right to the bitter end, and disregard the thoughts and opinions of others. It kind of makes me ideally suited to this job, I get. Now, looking out at your happy, smiling faces, I find it hard to believe that any of you actually have any toxic traits. But do you? If so, what are they? And why are you not proud of them? That's what we'd like to hear. There you are. That's the kind of thing we're looking for. Question of the day. Jim Turner says, toxic trait, just me. I'm pretty toxic if pushed in the wrong direction. That's what we're looking for. If anybody's got any more on that, I'd love to hear from you. Going back to our mystery machine, and I'll show you a bit more in a second. Dan Cullen has just said, Vermeer, mini articulated loader. Good knowledge. Not right. Let me show you a smidge more. There you are. That's what you've got to work with. Let me take that away. Does that help at all? Might put you in the right direction. Peter McKenna says, I'm like the Hulk when I get angry. Green. Okay, fair enough. Let me take that away. Don't forget, keep the guesses coming in on our mystery machine, but also keep us up to date on your toxic traits. Maybe we'll provide each other a support group for our toxic traits. Who knows? Let's have a bit of this. Yeah, as I said at the very top of the show, I'm looking to send you off into the weekend feeling, upbeat, positive, better about the world. And to help me do so, I'm going to lean on the fine folks at Volvo, who are building tomorrow.
'Cause I'll be the river down in the valley. You'll be the winter that slows me down, that slows me down. When it starts to shiver You guide me through the darkest days. You have always been the light in me. You have always been the light that I see. I am the river down in the valley. You are the winter that slows me down, slows me down. I am the river down in the valley. You are the winter that slows me down, that slows me down. When it starts to shiver out of the meadow, you'll be the summer that brings me life, brings me life. I am the river down in the valley. You'll be the summer that brings me life, brings me life.
Doesn't that just make you feel better about the world? Doesn't it? Awesome job. Well done, Volvo. Steve Williamson says, awesome video. Peter McKenna says, what a movie. I'll come back to Peter in just a moment. Let's have a look. Like a Big Family, yeah. And, you know, don't get me wrong. I'm not naive enough to believe corporate BS. I know it when I see it because I've been responsible for it over the years. But the one thing I will say about Volvo, there's a couple of other manufacturers that I would say the same about. Volvo do seem to genuinely believe in precisely that. The way they treat their employees, the way they treat their guests is exactly like that, like a big family. Absolutely right. Volvo, nothing like permafrost conditions to concentrate the plant operator mind. Ain't that the truth? Gary Muirhead is when I can get the button to play. Volvo do know how to make an amazing presentation video. Ain't that the truth? Absolutely astonishing stuff. Now, I do want to go back to Peter McKenna because you've mentioned the fact that you've made suggestions on WhatsApp. I can't find them. Don't know what you're talking about. So I'm in the dark on that. Good morning to Komatsu Italy, who've just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to Andrew Forshaw, who has also just joined us over on Instagram. Good to see both of them in the house. Now, back to our mystery machine. And I did say this could go either way, and it turns out it went kind of in the favour of you lot. So Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Yanmar C33 TV. It is not one of those. Peter McKenna said, is it an MDM MD35? It is not. However, Steve Williamson, who is becoming a bit too good at this, says this, a multi-one track loader. I need a bit more than that, but man, you are on the right track. I tell you what, see if that clarifies things at all. There you are. I tell you what, I'll give you another bit. There you are. That's what you're looking at. And I can tell you, Steve is looking very, very, very good at the moment on this. If anybody's got any thoughts on what that might be, please let us know. We'll take it away for now. And then we're going to come back for a bit of a big bang. It's in France. It's Le Big Bang. Be back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yes, you were suggesting possible mystery machines. I saw them. They're okay, but I'm not going to use them because you already know what they are, and I want you to take part. So, and also, and I was saying this to Fred yesterday, part of my search for mystery machines, I'm always looking for literally a complete side-on, just a slab side-on view, because I think you get to see it best that way. So yes, that's what I was looking for. Now I mentioned Big Bangs, the Big Bang. Have a look. Yeah, pretty smart, right? I'm going to say good morning to Demolition Sweden over on Instagram. Demolition, one of my favourite things. Sweden, one of my favourite places. Happy days. We have a winner, by the way, on our mystery machine. I'll come back to that in just a moment. It's Steve saying cracking tune. Yeah, I think it was absolutely appropriate for that. And I think we had, excuse me, I think we had a similar comment from somebody else. Ken Hatcher. Yeah, good video, this one, he says. Love the horror music. It was a little bit, wasn't it? A bit like The Omen back in the day. Right. We know that we were on the right track with our multi-one because Steve Williamson spotted that it could well be a multi-one. He went for the 10 series. Dan Cullen went for the 10.9, or the M1 10.9, should I say. Multi-one 10.9, says Peter McKenna. None of those things. Steve says the 10.8, and Peter McKenna says the 11.6, all of which are very, very close. But I can tell you, the man with the hats has got the right answer. It is that. That's exactly what it is. A multi-one, which is an M1 8.5 SK. We actually took this photograph at Plantworks last time around, I think, if I remember rightly. And I've taken the background out just to fool you a little bit. And there you are. That's what it looks like. Quite the tool, right? And there's Steve Williamson planted the seed again. Wait, he does say seed. Planted the seed again. That's some video and some tune. Yeah, back to the French blast. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So congratulations, Mr. Cullen. You've done it again. You've beaten the system. Where are we now? The 21st. So that means in about 10 days' time, we'll actually be starting the league table. Had we already started, you'd be top of the league. Well, maybe you'd be near the top of the league, certainly. Steve says they had a cracking demo at Balmer. They did. I remember seeing it. In actual fact, I remember seeing it, and it was so busy with people looking at it. I thought I'll come back and film that. Never got round to it, but they did put on a fantastic display. So well done to Dan the man, and well done to Multi-One back at Balmer. Belatedly, but I'm telling you now. there's a couple of discussion points coming up after this, so bear with me. I'll play this and then we'll have a chat. One of the great things about doing a daily show like this is that we have the ability to respond immediately, to spot potential trends, and then to discuss them with people like you who are in the know. I'm about to play you 2 videos back to back. Both are on the subject of parts and after sales support, and both seem to point to different emerging trends. The first of those films comes from telehandler giant Manitou, the latest company to throw its weight behind remanufactured parts. Wow, nice music. No, and cool video, says Dan Cullen. Peter McKenna says, my God, like watching Netflix Today Show. Yeah, it absolutely is. We've now heard that same message now from Caterpillar, Case, Komatsu, and now Manitou. In the very near future, reman parts might just be the way to save money while helping to save the planet. We've discussed it before, but I'd love to hear from you. You need a part for your machine and you have the remanufactured option. Are you taking it? Love to hear from you. Like music mechanics can be like a fine tune. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Now, no, I've covered all of that, I think. So that's one thing, the idea of remanufactured parts. So another thing, also in the same vein, talking about after sales support parts and that kind of thing. For years, machine manufacturers, have made it harder and harder for equipment owners to maintain their own fleet. Modern machines require advanced diagnostics of the kind that only approved dealers have. Machines are now comprised of sealed assemblies that can't be repaired in anything other than a state-of-the-art workshop. You know, the kind that only authorized dealers have. And equipment manufacturers have done all this for a very good reason. Machine maintenance repair is a highly lucrative revenue generator for manufacturers and their dealers alike. However, take a look at this.
Take care of your own maintenance and repairs faster with CAT self-service options. Our flexible self-service options cover everything from planned maintenance to low complexity repairs for a wide range of machine families and models. All options are conveniently offered with genuine CAT parts, recommended tooling, technical support, and easy-to-follow service instructions that get your machine up and running for maximum productivity. To help maximize downtime, enter your serial number at parts.cat.com/SSO. to get convenient, online, self-service options, pricing, and ordering that makes it easy to choose the parts and tooling you need and avoid paying for what you don't. Order in person or online and choose pickup or delivery straight to your job site or shop in no time. No matter what level of technical know-how you've got in-house, our solutions give you what you need to make efficient, lasting repairs that keep your machines moving at an affordable cost. Technical support is also included from our experts. CAD self-service options, complete solutions available 24/7 at your fingertips. It's do-it-yourself maintenance and repairs done right.
So, effectively, Caterpillar is giving machine owners all the tools they need to maintain their machines. Now, to my mind, that seems like a very good idea. No more waiting for your local dealer to get around to fixing your machine. You can now do it yourself with the full backing of the world's biggest equipment manufacturer. But what do we think? Is that a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Is it somewhere between the two? I'd love to hear from you. I reckon somebody like a Jim Turner would welcome that with open arms. Not necessarily for everybody, but I do wonder if that's a good idea. Now, obviously, that one came from Caterpillar, and we will be back for our final film of the day with Caterpillar again. Another nice inspirational one to send you away into the weekend. But I'm going to, there you are. Jim Turner says, just the way it used to be. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right it is. I do wonder, though, as I said, a lot of modern machines now are so highly complex and, built to such fine tolerances, and we're talking, sealed assemblies in the drivetrain and that kind of thing. Is the modern equipment owner, equipment operator, properly equipped to fix those things? Love to hear from you. Dan Cullen says two things. I'll come back to the other one in a minute. In America, even if you own a John Deere, they won't give you the codes or access to them. There was a big court battle in the USA between farmers and Deere. Was there really? Wouldn't be surprised. And the other thing that Dan Cullen says, another morning, porridge and custard. Wouldn't do without it now. I fear that I may have to take one for the team and go and try. How are you actually going about this, Dan? I want to know your recipe for porridge and custard. I like porridge. I like custard. At no point have I ever considered putting the two together. So how are you going about it? I need to know. I'm going to go and try it, and I shall do a full review for the show. Mick Norton says, the subcontinent of India are past masters in rejuvenating used parts in construction equipment. They've been at it for decades. You might recall we actually featured a film from India, must be more than a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, more than that, where they are actually taking sheets of steel from ships, defunct, dead, scuppered ships, and they are turning those pieces of steel into excavator buckets. Yes, the Indians are very good at reuse. I've always thought that was purely economically driven because, traditionally a lot of poverty in India and so on down the line. What we're talking about now, though, is, I'm sure it is still driven by finance, but at least partly driven by sustainability. Does that change things? Love to hear from you. Steve Williamson says, good idea, but I wonder what would happen if something happened due to poor fitting. Would it be covered if done by yourself? I thought exactly the same thing. Where does that leave you with warranties and that kind of thing? Thinking about it, I'm bearing in mind Caterpillar is American. America is a very litigious place, so I'm sure they've thought this through. But if you were to fix a problem on your machine using that system and it still went wrong, do you have a legal footing? Can you go back and say to them, I followed your instructions to the letter? Could you? I don't know. A pot of porridge and a pot of custard. Mix them up. I kind of feel like I need to. The modern trait of plant mechanics are armed first and foremost with a laptop for diagnostics. Unit exchange is very expensive and never gives the mechanic the ability to improvise. False economy, which manufacturers love in their need to generate income. Yeah, that was one of the things that made that Caterpillar film stand out as much as it did. Because selling the machine, I mean, obviously they make a profit on machines, but the actual margin on machines is ever narrowing because competition from Chinese and traditionally Korean and Japanese manufacturers and that kind of thing. So margins have slimmed and slimmed and slimmed. Where they can make their money is in after sales support and parts supply, genuine parts supply, and diagnostics and repairs and maintenance contracts and all of the things that go into that. Are Caterpillar handing some of that back? Which I find an interesting point. Also, I'm being the cynical sod that I am, I did wonder, is that a reflection of the volume of work that Caterpillar dealers have to contend with in terms of maintaining machines, or is there a belief in Caterpillar that maybe their dealers aren't able or as capable as perhaps they once were? I'm asking the question. I'm not stating that as a fact. They're only highly complex because that's the way they're built. Everything started to slide when machines started losing gauges. A gauge can be monitored and a decision made to carry on or park up and investigate. But a fault code means fuck all unless you have the key to the codes. It's such a good point. And I've had, I don't know, over the course of my driving life, I've probably had 12, 15 cars, some my own, couple of early ones would have been company cars, and you would basically drive them from service to service. Yeah, you might put a bit of water in them if you overheated or something like that, and occasionally you'd spot the fact that one of your tires was going down. Now my wife's car, good God Almighty, it's like living with a nagging woman. Even the slightest reduction in the tire pressure on one tire causes it to go apoplectic. Beep, beep, beep. It's currently, we've got the thing booked in. It's due a service at the end of July. It knows that. So it knows by mileage. We've already been informed by the local dealer, and the car is booked in to go in for its service. But because the car knows it needs a service, every time I start the car now, it's bleeping and showing me a picture of a spanner. I know, but I can't do it. There is nothing to say, I know. There is no button to switch that off. Gauges. Who would have thought we'd end up talking about gauges? Now, as I say, we do have one final film left, which is kind of in keeping with the large part of this show. I do want to desperately send you off into the weekend feeling slightly better about the world. So stick around. I'll be back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just distracted. I've just been sent a message by somebody over on LinkedIn, completely uninvited, and it's nonsense. Sorry, Mr. Lawrence. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, as well. There's a reference that not many people will get. Right, I said. Steve Williamson says YouTube will show you how to turn off the light. I wonder if it would. Well, I may have to have a look at that. So, our final film of the day, as I prepare to send you off into the weekend. The first film that we showed you today was from Volvo, and it was called Building Tomorrow. This one is from Caterpillar. It's called Building a Better World. It's about 5 minutes long, but it shouldn't leave you feeling quite warm and quite fuzzy. Here we go.
The world is big, and we should explore. So don't waste your time. I feel like I need to use my past experience, to have a positive impact on other people and share that knowledge, because it's all about doing good work and caring for people. When I was studying my undergrad in Taiwan, in my junior year in college, I was working as a sneaker store salesperson. It's a part-time job for me. And One day, I was sitting at the warehouse having my lunch, and I had a random conversation with my colleague. And my colleague told me, "Hey, Tu, you look pretty clever. Why working at a sneaker store?" And she told me, you should, realize your potential. And then, if you can pursue higher degree, just go for it. So ever since then, I decided to study abroad. In the very beginning, when I started researching the job related to data visualization, I realized that in the US, the market is super competitive. So what makes me stand out? Off the top of my head, I was thinking, okay, so I need certification. I need a decent enough portfolio. So I started building these two things. And the biggest obstacle was I didn't know how to speak English. So every day I would just go to Starbucks to, just take some book out there and then just studying and just have to keep practicing. And every day I just had to remind myself, it's a journey. Fortunately, I got the offer from the Institute of Technology. So I remember that in the first year of my master's, my professor was teaching how to use a programming language to visualize data. And I was so intrigued by that. So I started doing some research and I started learning that software by myself. One day, I saw a job posting from Caterpillar. And at that time, I didn't know how big Caterpillar is, but the job posting had a list of requirements and qualifications. And I feel like I'm 100% in line with what they're looking for. I decided to apply and I got into CAT working as a contractor. So when I joined CAT, this is my first position. And as a fresh grad, you didn't know what to do. So the only thing you can do is to observe, right? So observe the dynamics, observe the culture. And then I realized that I do have things to contribute to the team because I'm pretty good at data visualization. So I started doing some sharing sessions and started sharing some best practices. I noticed that our team received a lot of value from me, and my manager set up a meeting with me and say like, "Hey, do you want to join CAT as a full-time employee?" And I said yes. And I remember thinking, everything is too good to be real. So when I got the offer, the first things I do is to send thank you note to a lot of people, like my warehouse colleague, the hiring manager, the professor, and doing that helped me realize I'm a very lucky person because I feel like if I did not get that support, I would not have been where I am today. I believe that the world is not a zero-sum game. And if you give to somebody, they will want to give back to you. But at the same time, giving itself is rewarding.
那你看完这支影片之后呢，你就会学会如何制作像这样的折线图了。那在这个折线图中
Right now, I'm running a personal project where I upload weekly data visualization videos online in Mandarin. There is a huge knowledge gap in terms of visualization, and I really want to fill up those gaps because I believe that knowledge should be accessible without any language barrier. Last December, I went back to Taiwan and I'm working on building a network there. When I was there, I shared how we do practices in a large corporation. Some of the people there, they told me, "Hey, Tu, the videos you posted were really, really informative." And they said, I opened their mind. And that's super important because I want to be that person to, provide support in the first hand because I want to let them know the world is a better place if you support each other.
Yeah, Steve Williamson has picked out of that not what I expected to take away from it. He says, "Love the webcam bracket for the iPhone." Well, I've got that one beat. I really have. Can you see this? So that magnetizes to the back of my iPhone, so that can fold down. But if you flip out this thing here, you can see that. You see that little lip there? That sits on the top of your laptop. That is magnetized, and you can have vertical or horizontal format. And I'll show you just how it works. Can't show you on a computer, but it looks like that. And that just sits on top of your... That is basically how I broadcast from internet, using that as my iPhone. Yeah, as my iPhone, using that as my camera. Love a gadget, says Steve. You and me both, my friend. You and me both. The number of videos I watch, 100 things you can buy on Amazon for less than a $5 that will change your life. I love all that kind of stuff. Now, going back to parts and stuff. Mick Norton says in 2024, if a needle valve replacement in a carburetor was diagnosed as the fault, the modern mechanic would tell you it needs a new carburetor, which is echoed by Jim Turner, says what we'd call a new parts fitter, not a proper fitter that can actually mend anything. And I wonder, going right the way back to the very beginning of the show when we were talking about management and various other bits and pieces, is that by design? Has the Gareth Southgate of the equipment manufacturing and the equipment dealership said, no, don't worry about repairing, it costs too much money, it takes too much time, just whip out the entire component and bung in a new one? Is that the case, or have we lost those skills? Have we genuinely lost those skills? And again, I'm a bet. I've literally I spent a bit of this morning writing the notes for Monday's column, and one of the things that I'm talking about is those things that we have lost. I don't know why I always refer to the guy as Tom. There was always a Tom, a company's workshop, be it in a plant hire company, a demolition contractor, a construction equipment a construction company contractor. And Tom could fix anything. If it had hydraulics or if it was powered by diesel, he would figure out a way. He would, what's the expression? He would MacGyver a solution to make it work again. Hit it with a hammer, whack it with a screwdriver, whatever it took, he would be able to get that machine back up and running using nothing more than a hair clip and some sellotape. I believe we've lost that. And I'm not absolutely convinced that's a good thing. And I do wonder, it's a good point, Jim. I do wonder if it's because of that. We now live in a throwaway society. We can't, we're far too busy to worry about fixing things. Going back to the film from Manitou, the remanufactured parts. How many fathers, and I realize it was just a film, I'm not getting all slushy here, I realize it's just a film. How many fathers today would take that old roundabout funfair ride thing, dismantle it, fix it, and put it back together again? On how many would say to their little girl or their little boy, jump in the car, we're off to the toy shop, we're going to buy you a new one, and that one's going in the bin? I wonder. Anyway, that will just about do us for the main part of this morning's show. There's plenty to talk about, I think. So we will be back immediately after the crack. So I'm going to roll I do need to remind you very, very quickly. Show on Monday, no show Tuesday, no show Wednesday, show Thursday, Friday. So it's going to be a shorter week next week because I'm going to be at Hillhead. If you're going, please try to get me a message. You all know my telephone number. Try to get me a message. I'd love to meet up with all of you that are going. I'm obviously going to miss Ken Hatcher because he's going to be there at a different time to me, but I'd love to meet up with as many of you as I possibly can. That's why we're going to be away on Tuesday and Wednesday, but hopefully we'll come back on Thursday with lots to tell you, lots to show you and everything else. So with that being said, I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you were saying today. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I hope to see you again very soon, Monday, ideally. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back with the crack immediately after this word from our key show sponsor. Let's just take that music up a touch. How are we all doing this morning? All happy it's Friday? I know Andy Hare is always happy it's Friday, but good morning, everyone. Hope you're all fit and well. I'm not going to talk about the football, partly because it was bloody awful, but also because I know a lot of you are not into football, and I'd just be boring the teats off you, and I don't want to do that. Let's have a look who we got here. We had some early risers, but Andy Hare, Dan Cullen, Peter McKenna, Gary Muirhead. Oh, they're queuing at the door this morning. Steve Williamson, Peter McKenna again, Mark Whiting. Yes, P45 for Gareth Southgate. Not a moment too soon. Who we got there? Rattling through. Ken Hatter is here as well. Unfortunately, going to miss Ken at Hillhead. Last time I saw Ken was actually at Hillhead, funnily enough. Was it? Or was it a Plant Works? Can't remember. It's one of those. So, Steve Williamson, open discussions with this. I've got to use a concrete skip today because the Rams say so. Let me do that again with the right intonation. I've got to use a concrete skip today because the Rams say so. Because there isn't an option to say use a tilt rotator. Madness. We'll do it in 3/4 of the time. Get the Rams changed is the answer to that, I guess. Easier said than done. But going back to the overall theme of today and management and mismanagement and that kind of thing, is that a sign of old beliefs, old ideologies sticking around? Is that a failure to move with the times, or is technology like tilt rotators, GPS, is that moving at a faster pace than the rules and regulations that surround them? I personally believe it's the latter. You know, there are different ways of doing things now, and I'm not entirely convinced that things like, you know, RAMs and specific legislation are necessarily keeping up with that. Somebody called Drippy Longstockings just joined us over on Instagram. Love the name. Don't know what you're doing here, but love the name. Hillhead's really taken shape. Yeah, I would imagine there'll be like the proverbial swans up there at the moment, looking all elegant above the surface, but pedaling like fury below it. Yeah, they've got basically, what remains of today, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to get things prepped, because the hordes will arrive on Tuesday morning. I'm due to be there because I've got a press pass. I think I'm allowed to be in there about 8:30. So the plan is to be there for precisely that time. We're going up the night before, staying in Nellie's cottage. Apparently Nellie knows. We're going up to stay in Nellie's cottage, actually in Buxton. We're about 8 minutes away from the show. So yeah, that's our plan. We'll be there first thing on Tuesday morning rather, to get around and see as much as we possibly can. Got some filming to do with the likes of who we filmed with. Sunward is one, Hammerglass is another. I think we're doing a bit with Steel Wrist. There was another one I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. No, can't remember, but we've got some specific jobs to do, but also we'll be filling in with the key manufacturers while we're there. But as I said, if you are going, please come and find us. I'll probably, I can't see it now actually, I'll probably be wearing my streamer hat, the one that I used to do this show in, purely to make me easily identifiable. So keep an eye out for that, and if you can spot me, come and say hello. The longest day is every Monday. Does feel like that, doesn't it? Does feel like that. But the shortest days are Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, Sunday does seem exceptionally brief, despite the fact that I'm usually up very, very early on a Sunday. Not this week because I've got a day off, but I'm normally up very early on that day. Anybody got any toxic traits they'd care to confess? Mick Norton says, question of the day, perish the thought anyone on this portal should have a harmful behavioural trait. I actually thought that was what brought us together. I thought we were a collection of harmful behavioural traits. Maybe it was just my imagination. So, toxic traits, here's a good one. And I'm not going to do this because you'd be here all day. Jim Turner says, I'll try and get an impartial view. Sarah Jane Turner, do I have any toxic traits? She'd probably say I'm an absolute gentleman and a pleasure to live with. Yes, my wife would say the same. I'm saying this a little bit quieter because she's outside the door and she may not agree with that. Let's have a look. Who else have we got here? Well done on the getting the right answer on the multi-one machine this morning. I know that Steve Williamson set everyone on the right path, but it was it was the Hat Man, Dan Cullen, that actually got the right answer. And this Gary Muirhead says, that was my next guest, Dan. Only joking, it would never have got that. Well done. Yeah, that was the plan, basically. Yeah, it was a little bit epic today, wasn't it? Set me thinking, actually, and it was Peter's comment about that. Obviously, I'm going to Hillhead next week, and we will be taking, all the fancy camera equipment, including Fred's brand new lens, which is, yeah. He took a photograph of it. It's a massive zoom lens. He took a photograph yesterday of an aeroplane going overhead, and you could pretty much see the name badge of the guy that was driving the plane. I'm exaggerating slightly, but yes, that thing. It's like watching Netflix today. There will be lots of people, influencers up there, who will be doing their level best to make Hillhead look all sexy and nice using their phone. And then there will be people up there doing it with cameras properly. There was a time, and I'm only going back a couple of years, there was a time when equipment manufacturers and the like could put out a film fairly low quality, fairly low grade, so long as it looked vaguely okay, and the music was kind of okay, and the images were kind of okay. It's not the age we live in now. You look at those films today from Caterpillar, from Volvo, they are mini cinematic marvels, and that is precisely why we're going to Hillhead next week, to produce those things. Yes, I will have my trusty iPhone with me. Yes, I will take some photographs with my trusty iPhone. But if you want to do this job properly, you got to pay your money. You really have. What do we got here? Subcontinent of India, masters at rejuvenating used parts on construction equipment. Pretty good at keeping things going regardless, aren't they? Cars and motorbikes and that kind of thing make them last forever. I may have to do this. Custard and porridge. Do you have it hot, or do you just have it cold? I'm thinking hot. I'm thinking hot would make it a little more tolerable, but I don't know. Yeah, going back to that business of fixing your own machines, just the way it used to be. Precisely right. Precisely right. Let me go back down to the bottom here. It's good having the exhibitors' passes. At Belmont, we bypass queues and queues of people. Yeah, you do get a slightly warm feeling about that, don't you? I remember going years ago, going with an equipment manufacturer to the Lido in Paris. Dancing girls and a bit like the Moulin Rouge kind of deal. And we arrived, pulled up in a car outside, and there was a queue. I mean, I'm not exaggerating to say there was probably 1,000 people in the queue, but we were the elite, and we just walked to the front of the queue and just sailed in. I have to say, I did feel quite smug about that. I have a camera lens it's a 600mm zoom, and wow, what a zoom! Yeah. Well, Fred took delivery. He bought it specifically for Hillhead, but he took delivery of it 2 days ago. We've got a park fairly close to us, a place called Bourne Hall, and there's lots of ducks and geese and squirrels and what have you over there. And he literally went over there and took a stroll. Man alive, the detail. I mean, you can see the squirrel's eyelashes. It's that powerful. Plant, what was the last time I seen you? Yeah, it probably was. Feels like what? Feels good in invoked in building these pads for holding. Oh, yes, absolutely. Building a distillery. I mean, I don't drink, but I do still believe that it has its place. Mick Norton says, Jim's mention of gauges brought back memories of my time on a Cat D4C dozer and a breakdown that I thought was fuel pump orientated. The new and ultra keen mechanic arrived, and when looking at the gauge alongside the fuel tank, decided to embarrass me with, the gauge is on zero, you silly bugger, there's no fuel in the tank. I was delighted to inform this laptop carrying whiz kid that the gauge was indeed at zero, as befits a pressure gauge when the engine's not running. Brilliant. We need to get you involved in the demo show at Balmer. Steve, it would be my pleasure. Obviously, I mean, we've certainly worked not as closely as you, but we've worked with the fine folks at Kinsoffer for the last couple of Bauman. In fact, it might even be 3 Baumans now. Actually, we do have quite a history with them. Always look forward to working with them because they're an absolute pleasure to deal with. Pay their bills and everything, but they're an absolute joy to deal with. So yeah, love to do that. Well, others do. I live use other people's cast offs, mend, adapt them, and give them a whole new life. I'm a tight bastard and eco warrior, all rolled into one. I'm sure I've told you this before. In the early days of the Demolition magazine that I started, whatever it was, maybe 10 years ago. In addition, this is a bit of a drawn-out story, so if you've got other things to do, please go and do it. But so, came up with this idea of a Demolition magazine, and deliberately decided to go against the grain. So every other magazine in the business-to-business space has a big photograph of an excavator or a wheel loader or a dozer on the front cover. Our front covers were black, plain black. The logo that we chose that said Demolition, I actually stole the logo from the film Alien. If you remember rightly, the light shining through the eye in the Alien, we borrowed that. And my plan basically with the Demolition magazine was it was a sort of magazine you could take it home, stick it on your coffee table, and your wife wouldn't get pissed off about you having digger magazines about. It would look like a coffee table magazine. So, following that thing, 95% of what we had in the magazine was demolition related. It was demolition news, it was demolition equipment, it was demolition discussions and all that kind of thing. But we also stirred into the mix other things like, cars, for one thing. We started out with pickups, but we also did some fancier cars. I mean, I took an Aston Martin for a spin at one point, and we featured that in there. So, in the end, that part of the magazine had become so popular that we decided we did one as an insert. We came up with an idea of an insert, so a magazine within a magazine, and we called it Bloke, and it was a men's lifestyle magazine. So you've got all the demolition, but there in the middle was a bit of, cars and fashion and various. People loved it to the point where we offloaded it and we took it a completely different way. Anyway, all of that comes back to what Jim was saying. So one of the people that I wanted to feature, I don't know if he's still there, but I think it's the Dorchester on Park Lane in London. There's a guy, old school shoe shine guy. So he's got the seat that you sit in, and you prop your feet up, and he shines your shoes. Real old school, very old fashioned way of doing things, but a craftsman. The guy's got dozens of polishes and lacquers, and a real craftsman. So I went to feature this guy. So I'm sat there waiting for my turn to have my shoes shine so that I can interview him. But when I arrived, there was a guy already sat in the seat, and I have to say he was wearing a jacket that was just a thing of beauty. You sometimes spot somebody and you think, man alive, you paid some money for that. That is a fantastic suit or a jacket or a shirt. So as he got out of the chair, I said, gotta say, do love your jacket. And he said, literally, like conspiratorially, he came over and he went, I bought it in a charity shop for 10 quid. And then I got a tailor to tailor it for another 10 quid. This jacket looked like it had cost him about $3,000. And it cost him 20 quid. So, which is a long way of going around. Tight white bastard and eco warrior. I quite like a cast off, I have to say. I've got a Paul Smith jacket here, black blazer, that I bought in a charity shop maybe 15 years ago. It's a couple of grand's worth of jacket. Looks fantastic. Cost me about 15 quid, I think. Firm believer. Throwaway society today. That, I think, is going to be one of the biggest lessons we're going to have to learn. And I think it all ties into this discussion about remanufactured parts. For years and years, we've got more and more into that throwaway society. Things like, we've just been talking about clothing. I can go to my local Primark over in Kingston, and I can buy myself a T-shirt like this one for £1.80. And if I spill something down it, if I snag it on a doornail, do they still exist? If I snag it, if I stretch the neck or whatever, Not a problem. £1.80. I'll just throw it away and go and buy another one. In the age of sustainability at all costs, can we still do that? And going back, tying that back into equipment and parts and that kind of thing, can we afford to keep building multiple tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of new pieces of equipment? Or should we be looking to remanufacture, get a second or even third life out of our machines? And if we're doing that with machines, then surely we should be doing that with parts, because parts are replaced even more often than the machines. Surely that makes sense. But as I say, and as the audience have said today, we have for the last 20, 30 odd years, we have become a throwaway society. That is a major mind shift. That's a paradigm shift for mindsets across the industry. No, let's not go and buy something new. Let's do something else. And I also wonder the public image that portrays for years. And I'm speaking specifically here about Demolition, but there are some companies. True 7 in plant hire, I'll use them as an example. They pride themselves on always having lots of the very latest, very shiny new machines. If your client is sustainability inclined, or if they are a real sort of eco-warrior type company, going to them with a fleet of brand new machines, none of which is more than a year old, does that become a bad thing? And I know we've always had the argument that newer machines are less likely to break down, and I understand that. But if you've got specifiers and what have you in major clients and contractors looking at the real nitty-gritty of sustainability and zero emissions, is going to a meeting saying all of our machines are less than a year old because we constantly chop them out, is that a good thing, or is that a bad? Is that a pro or is that a con? I reckon there will be a day where that becomes a con. And I also wonder, just thinking this through, at what point do you start to build in that kind of thing? Think about Volvo as an example. Volvo have built some machines now that are built using fossil-free steel. Okay, so even before the machine rolls off the production line, there is a big tick in a box marked sustainability. So if you're a customer in a particularly green location or a particularly green application and you're buying that machine, you're already in a carbon deficit. You've already gone further than most people will do. Will we see at some point in the future companies we have brand spanking new machines, latest technology, or our fleet is entirely sustainable, some of our equipment is 15 years old and it's now on its third life? And what will be the reaction? What will be the market perception to that? Will people say, wow, that's a fantastic thing, they're doing their bit for the environment? Or will they be looking at it thinking, I'd rather have a new machine? Steve says, I haven't been to a car boot sale in years. Used to be a thing once a month when I was little. Yeah, I don't know when did jumble sales stop? When did jumble sales stop? Used to go to jumble sales as a kid. Started out with my mum, but I had a really good mate when I was growing up, who one of those people that is only happy if they're pulling things apart and then putting them back together again. And I remember we went to a jumble sale close to where we lived, and he bought this. It was kind of it was a sailing ship. So, wooden hull, sort of highly polished, although it seemed better days, but it actually had like canvas sails and the string ropes and everything else, but the whole thing had collapsed and what have you. But it was a lamp. It contained within it was the electrics. The lamp didn't work either. Well, my mate bought it for about, back in the day, probably about 20p, I think. Took it back, rubbed it down, varnished it, put all the strings back together to get the sails back up, and then fixed the electric. So I thought he was going to resell it, and I thought he was going to make himself a few quid. He didn't. He spent that much time on it. He kept it. I don't know how long it lasted, but yeah. When did that stop? Car boot sales. Did car boot sales replace jumble sales when I wasn't looking? I don't know. Problem is too many people want to be better than the guy next door. Yeah. That is very true. That is very true. And I think that really plays into what we were talking about there with equipment users, equipment owners. You know, if you're a plant hirer and you're a mile down the road from another plant hirer, and his fleet is 2 years old and your fleet is a year old, you have on paper gained an advantage going forward. Have you? Or have you actually put your hand up and said, I'm not particularly sustainable because I'm insisting that manufacturers supply me with new equipment that are costing the earth? Literally costing the earth. Interesting point. Let's have a look. No, I think we've pretty much covered it. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we are done. Which means that with just an hour and 12 minutes, nearly an hour and 13 minutes actually on the clock, it will be time for you to go. You'll be able to go and do your whatever it is that you do on a Friday, and then hopefully take a bit of a time off over the weekend to regenerate, recoup and recharge the batteries. Just to very quickly, and I know I'm boring, but I don't want the WhatsApp messages saying, where the hell are you? Here Monday, here Thursday, here Friday, no show Tuesday, no show Wednesday, because I will be in a big hole in the ground up in Buxton in Derbyshire. And if I'm not in there, then I'll be at Nellie's cottage just up the road. If you are going to Hillhead, look out for me. If you're not, I'll tell you about it when I get back. Everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you on Monday for the final show for a couple of days. Till then, everybody, have a good one.